Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So I filmed a video a few days ago and something happened with my mic. I don't know how it turned off. You couldn't hear anything, and then part of it was very staticky. I filmed a video using these two Lawless products. One of them is the Lawless Woke Up Like This foundation. The other one is the Lawless Seal the Deal Loose Setting Powder. So I did a video with these. I'm gonna attach that video to this one. So it's gonna combine my first impressions, a review of the product, and also a wear test because I've been wearing this foundation. So I wanna go ahead and get into the part where I actually show you guys how I applied it with a brush, with a sponge. You will see that in the video, I used the shade Mojave, and I actually went and changed it for this shade, which is Arizona. That's the shade I have on today. And I really love this shade because it's like the perfect shade for my skin tone. There are some pros and cons to this foundation. So what I wanna do is I wanna go ahead and get into the video where I show you how I apply it and my first impressions of it while I'm applying it. And then we'll come back and I'll tell you a little bit more about the foundation and give you my full review on it. So if you want to see how I applied the foundation, then just keep watching. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be giving you my first impressions of the Lawless Woke Up Like This foundation. I actually purchased this foundation at Sephora here recently. I've seen so many reviews about this, but I actually wanted to try it out myself. So I went ahead and purchased the shade Mojave, and it comes in this like frosted glass bottle, as you can see here, and it comes with a plastic top. It also comes with a pump, so that's a great addition to this foundation because with the pump you can always control how much you want. And I also purchased two of the loose setting powders. One is the Classic Translucent and the other one is the Brightening Translucent. I will be using both of these today. The reason I purchased two is because I wanted to see how the Brightening would look under the eyes and how the Classic would actually look all over the face. So I am going to be using both of those. So basically this is a clean type of foundation, which means it doesn't have a lot of chemicals in it. It's formulated without parabens, phthalates, PEGs, mineral oil, sulfates, aluminum, chemical fragrance, silicones, petroleums, and it's cruelty-free. So that's a pretty good deal for this foundation. It says it's supposed to be formulated for all skin types with medium to full buildable coverage and a fresh satin finish. It's non-comedogenic, won't clog pores, and wears comfortably throughout the day with a lightweight feel that won't fade or disappear. I will be wearing this foundation probably for about a good maybe 5 to 6 hours. I'm kind of starting late in the day, so I'm not able to wear the foundation for longer than that. Anyway, let's go ahead and get started. I have broken out right here, so if you see this is just one of my little friends that came to visit during that time of month, so just ignore it. Half the side of my face I'm going to use a brush and the other half I'm going to use a sponge. So I'm going to go in with the J1 Jelly Pack Primer. I have been using this primer quite a bit. I love it. It's a very good primer for like firming the skin and also allowing your foundation to adhere to the skin because it's very tacky on the skin. So I'm just gonna go in with just one pump. And this one is also good for like your pores. So I won't be putting any kind of pore primer today. I've already moisturized my skin as well. Okay, so now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna shake up the bottle because I noticed that it's kind of moved around in the bottle, so I'm gonna actually shake it up really good. I'm going to pump it on the back of my hand. Okay, that's one pump. I'm gonna start with the right side of my face. It looks thick, but it doesn't feel thick. When I put it on my skin, I think it feels pretty lightweight. I'm gonna go in with this e.l.f. sponge, and I'm just gonna press it into the skin. Oh wow, that looked like it gave really good coverage. Look at that, guys. Now I put most of the pump on here. As you can see, there's still some on my hand, but it's very little. That's pretty good coverage. It's not full coverage, it's a good medium to full coverage. That's really pretty. So this is the side that doesn't have it, and this is the side that does. So yeah, I do have a little bit of a glow, as you can see there. Okay, so that was one side. So I'm just gonna put another pump on the back of my hand to add to what I had left. And I'm gonna dab that onto my left side. And I'm going in with this Morphe E44 brush. Just kind of press that in. It covered up that pimple really good, guys. Looking at the brush side, it looks like it might have given a little bit more coverage. So from the looks of it, it looks like both the brush and the sponge are giving pretty good coverage. So I think it's gonna be based on personal preference, whether you wanna use a brush or a sponge. I'm gonna go ahead and finish it with the sponge only because I feel like it just sinks into the skin a lot better with the sponge. So let me put a second coat or layer. I'm not finishing it, so there's more here, but I just want to put another layer on to see if we can build up to full coverage. Yep, I think we can. Oh wow, that's so beautiful. The coverage is amazing. I think 2 layers is gonna be good. It doesn't look cakey. It looks pretty glowy. As you can see, it's got that glow to it. Okay, I think that's pretty good. So basically I used 2 pumps, but I really didn't finish it, so I left probably a quarter of a pump here. So really I don't think I need a full 2 pumps. But even if you wanted to use the rest of this, it doesn't feel heavy on the skin. It feels very light. So I don't think it'd be a problem if you added a little bit more. Okay, so what I'm gonna do, guys, is I'm gonna go ahead and finish most of my makeup, and then I'm gonna come back and show you guys the powders. I'll be back in a minute. Okay, guys, so I already did my concealer, I did my brows, my eye makeup, so I'm gonna go ahead and go in with the Flawless powder. So the one I'm going to use for the under eyes is the Brightening powder. So this is the shade right here. I don't know if you guys can tell. I'm going to open it up. It comes with a little sifter in the middle. I'm going to go ahead and take that off. All right, guys, I don't know if you can see, but this is the shade. It's very light. I'm going to go ahead and use a brush to actually set my under eyes. I'm going to go in with this Morphe M501. I'm going to put a little bit of powder on the brush. Tap off the excess, and then I'm just going to press that onto the under eye. I don't think it really brightened it up much. It looks kind of like my skin tone. Yeah, it didn't really brighten it up much. I don't know if that powder is actually supposed to be like brightening all over when you put it all over the skin, or if when you use it on your under eyes, it's supposed to brighten it up. So I'm gonna go over that with another under eye powder that I use, either the Laura Mercier or the Ofra banana powder. So I'll do that, but it looks like it set it really well. It looks really smooth under there. So it did set it like nicely. It doesn't look cakey on my under eyes. It just looks like it's not brightening like I like it. Honestly, I could probably use that as an all over setting powder. It looks like it would probably be around my foundation color, so it wouldn't like make my skin have a white cast or anything. So let me go ahead and use this one. It's the Classic Translucent. Now, by looking at them, this one looks like a more of a light peach, and this one looks like white. It looks like a white shade. Now, I did swatch these in the store, and they didn't really show like a white cast or anything. They kind of melted into the skin. So let me try the Classic Translucent. If it's way too white for my skin, I'll go over with the Brightening Translucent. Okay, to set my face, I'm gonna use the Morphe E41. I'm gonna put a little bit in the cap, like that. This did set the foundation really nicely, but I do feel like it does look a little bit light for my skin, but it looks pretty on the skin. I want to go over it with the peach one just to see if it might be a little bit darker. Yeah, that one kind of darkened it up a little bit. I can tell by putting it on my neck that it did darken it up. So the Brightening Translucent is probably going to be more of a shade for me to actually set my foundation. But I will say that these powders look really beautiful on the skin. What I'm thinking, guys, is that I would use the Classic Translucent for under my eyes because it is a brighter color, and then use the Brightening Translucent all over my face. because it's a bit darker. I'll continue to test these and use them in that way just to see if they give me the look that I'm trying to achieve. But so far, they're really good. I think they set the face really nicely. They set my under eyes really nicely. It looks really smooth. Even though I put that second layer on, it doesn't look cakey. It looks really nice. So what I'm gonna do is do the rest of my makeup. I'm gonna do something with my hair, and then I'll be back and we'll talk a little more in depth about these products. Okay guys, now that you've seen how I applied the foundation, let's go over some of the pros and cons of this foundation. Now, these are my pros and cons. This is not something that's been stated on their website or anything like that. This is just how I feel about the foundation on my skin. So yeah, so let's get into that. Number one, the product itself applies beautifully. It goes on seamlessly, looks gorgeous on the skin, has a beautiful glow to the skin. I have it on today. It melts into the skin. It just makes the skin look so fresh and just very alive. So I love that about the product, that it's easily blendable and it just melts into the skin. It looked a little bit thick initially when I put it on in that video, but it really isn't. It's a little bit more of a runny consistency, not too runny, but that really doesn't play into anything other than, you know, that's just the consistency of it. Another thing I loved about this foundation is that once it dries down, it actually looks very natural. It looks like skin. It just looks so beautiful. It doesn't look cakey, it doesn't look drying, and it actually made my dry skin that I have right now, because I'm going through a new skincare regimen, it made that dry skin look a little bit more plump, and it didn't really adhere to those dry patches. So I really like that. It just looked very natural, very glowy. It just looked really beautiful on the skin. So that's number two. Okay, so the third thing I loved about this foundation is the fact that it has a pump. Now, you can see here, it's just gotten a little messy, but that's my fault because, you know, I can be a little messy at times. Either way, it has a pump. You have a lot of control with how much foundation you need for your face. So the pump makes it easy to use. Another thing I love about this foundation is that it does say that it's a buildable coverage, which I totally agree. It can be a full coverage foundation. Today, I wore it more like a medium coverage foundation because I'm not really doing anything crazy today. I'm actually just running errands and just kind of, you know, taking care of stuff here at home. But it can be built up to a full coverage foundation, which looks so gorgeous. It doesn't look heavy either when you build it up. You can layer this foundation and layer it, and it's not gonna look thick on your skin. So this is a great full coverage foundation for me. So another thing I like about the foundation is that it does last a good amount of time. I wore this for almost 6 to 7 hours, kind of in between 6 to 7 hours, and it looked just as beautiful as it did when I first put the foundation on. So that was a big plus for me. It didn't wear like past the 7 hours. I mean, I had to like blot, but it's still a good foundation for 6 to 7 hour wear. So if you're looking for something that looks really beautiful, makes you look very flawless, and you only need it for a small amount of time, this is actually gonna be the foundation you're gonna wanna reach for. I think I pretty much gave you all the pros that I could think of with this foundation. So let's get into the cons. Now, there's not very many of them, but for the most part, these are things that I can actually live with. So one of them is that when you put the foundation on, you have to let the foundation set. So that means that you're not gonna go straight from foundation into powder. Initially, I was putting the foundation on, placing the powder on, and I noticed that it would move a little bit. And I was like, what is going on with this foundation? I really didn't read the part of how to use the foundation. So I went back in, read about it. It did say because it doesn't have a lot of those, you know, binding chemicals, and it's a very clean foundation, that you do need to let it set into the skin. So I do wait probably about 10 minutes before I actually put my makeup on. That is a long time if you're in a hurry to go somewhere and you don't have time to set the foundation. So that's a big deal for those of us who are, you know, trying to get our makeup done quick, you know, trying to get out the door. This is not a foundation that you're gonna wanna go for because you have to let it set. And like I said, 10 minutes was good for me. On those days that I wore it, I really didn't have anywhere to go in a rush. So yeah, I waited about 10 minutes before I put any powder on. The other thing with this foundation is that if you have somewhat oily skin, the oils will seep through the foundation. Not in a bad way. For me, it wasn't a big deal, but I did see oils coming from this area, which you guys know my T-zone is very oily. So I did see a lot of oil come from that area. But what I did was I just took like, one of my pressed powders and just blotted it, and I was good to go. So that part of it really didn't bother me too much, but it is a con if you have oily skin and you don't want to have to deal with that. That's something to think about when you're buying a foundation, especially now that the summer is coming around and it's really hot. I know I tend to get a little bit more oily during the summer. So yeah, this might not be a great foundation for someone who has really oily skin. So that's something that I would definitely consider if you're interested in buying this foundation. So the other one is that, you'll see like the oils kind of separating here. And what you have to do is you have to shake the product up really, really well, because that's what will happen with this foundation. Because it has clean ingredients, it's going to somewhat separate. And that doesn't mean that the foundation's bad. It just means that you have to shake it up really, really well before you actually apply it onto the skin. That's really not a major con, but it is something that you need to think about if you're going to use this foundation. Some people will look at that and say, that doesn't look right for it to separate, but it's gonna separate. And it says it on the website. It does tend to separate, and all you have to do is shake it up and you're good to go. But make sure you shake it up really, really well, because you want to mix all those ingredients in there. So another thing that I will say about the foundation that is a con is that it only comes in 19 shades. And I feel like they need a wider range of shades, especially with all these makeup companies coming out with wider ranges of shades to provide shades for every skin tone. I think that if there was more shades out there, that more people would know about this foundation and actually use the foundation. So anyway, that's pretty much it for my cons. So the product itself retails for about $46. I did mention that it is for all skin types, normal, oily, and combination. But like I said, you guys that are oily, you might want to kind of test out the product before you actually purchase it, because of the issues that I had around my oily areas. So yeah, so that's all I can say about the foundation. So let me get into the powder very quickly. So I actually purchased two of the powders. One of them was the Classic Translucent and one of them was the Brightening Translucent. Now in the video, I showed you that I used the Brightening Translucent for my under eyes and the Classic Translucent all over my face. That didn't look right on my face, so I had to actually switch them. I used the Classic Translucent on my under eyes, and I used this one, the Brightening Translucent, all over my face. Now, I didn't like the way these powders actually went on my under eyes. It really felt like they got a little bit crepey under there, but I did love the powder to set my face. This is a beautiful brightening powder. This is more like a peachy beige tone color, and I really love this powder to set my face with that foundation, but I also love to set that foundation with other powders that I have. I've used pretty much every powder that I use on a daily with this foundation, and it does work really well. But I do feel like the Seal the Deal powder works really good with the foundation. Looks really nice on the skin. It doesn't give like a shimmering effect or anything like that. It's more of a soft powder effect, and I do really like that. So I ended up taking the Classic Translucent back, and I just kept the Brightening Translucent. I do think that this is a beautiful powder. I just don't know if this is a powder that I'm gonna be picking up to use on a daily. It doesn't seem like anything like super fantastic or, you know, something that I just feel like is like a game changer for me. I just feel like it's a good powder, but it's just not something that I would actually grab for. You know what I mean? But let me go ahead and mention this. The powder comes in 3 shades. It comes in the Classic Translucent, the Brightening Translucent, and the Golden Translucent. And it retails for $36. So there's not really anything negative that I can say about the powder. It just seems like your average setting powder. And like I said, it is a good powder. Oh, I wanted to mention, before I sign off, I wanted to mention that I did wear this foundation with my Milk primer, and also with my J1 Jelly Primer, and also the Cover FX Primer. And I also used it with my e.l.f. Poreless Primer on my T-zone. So I've used it with those primers. It worked perfectly fine with them. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I'm sorry that it's so all over the place, but I don't know why my mic went crazy that day. So hopefully I don't have that problem anymore. But anyway, thank you guys for joining me. I love you guys, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye.